We're going to talk about working in the garden, working at home.
We learned to work early because my mother would have to go out and help with the threshing, with the farm work. And so Rose and I would stay home, take care of the baking, take care of the cooking, take care of the children while Mom would go to work. So I still remember in Rimby, we did that quite a bit. And what Grandpa Bechtel remembers, he said, he came to visit them, and he couldn't believe it. He had these two little girls standing there, taking stuff out of the oven, taking bread out of the oven, looking after all the children.
He told that about us in early years of Bentley too. When we were in Bentley, not Bentley. Early years when we were in
Rimby?
Armstrong.
Yeah.
He come and there was Dad and Mom and Ed out in the field, and we two were taking care of the kids and cooking and doing things, and he just couldn't believe we could do that. But we were short for our age, so we might have been older at that point.
Well, Mom had depended on us so much that we were able to do it. And I'm glad we did. It helped us. I've always had a sense of responsibility since then.
Very
and
much.
I think you did too.
Yeah.
And we worked with the children, the younger ones.
And then Aunt Alberta had to do it by the time we got out to work in the chores. Aunt Alberta had to do all that. And she would have to take care of the babies and cook the food and wash the dishes. And so she got so that she would quickly eat and get the dishes done before we were eating, and she'd come in wanting our plates so she could wash them.
I don't remember that.
You know?
She was anxious to get it done.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
When my father got little hose, he somehow got the small hose and short handles, and as we grew, we all had our own hose. We had to hoe the garden, and after every rain, the whole garden had to be hoed. Every time. And when another time it was disgusting for me was that we wanted to go to church picnic. Had it rained that night. We had to hoe the whole garden before we could go to the church picnic. We got there, and most of the people had been there, and they had already had a lot of fun, and we missed. We just got there in time to eat. I remember that time.
Well, Dad had a habit that we had to do something worthwhile every day before we could do something else. Now, that's true. I mean, it's a good idea. Make a day worthwhile. As much as it was hard for us kids, because we did that a lot. Picnics, whatever it was. And we got used to that fact. Well, disappointed, yes, but that's part of growing up, learning responsibility.
When you're in a big family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then as we got a little bit older and we could work elsewhere, people would ask us to come and pick potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first tasks we did were picking potatoes. We had a small little bucket, and we had to pick potatoes and keep up with the row. Auntie Sue and I were able to keep it up.
And when the other kids came and joined us, because Alberta would come when she got older, and Zella, Rose and I would quickly hop over to help them pick up their row so they could keep up and still keep ours up.
That's right.
And there was dearest Mrs. Pickle. She worked like fury to get faster than we did, and we all worked so fast we had kept up with her. That's how come we picked potatoes so quickly. I just remember how she did that.
And then another crop that we worked in was the asparagus field.
Oh, yes. And that was, we did that for a long time in the spring. As soon as the asparagus came up, you and I would walk down to the Holman, what's her name?
Holman, yeah.
And get our buckets, and away we go, up and down those rows.
First we did it with Ed, and then after Ed went to school, then it was just you and I, and then it was Alberta and you and I. And at the end, it wasn't us, it was Leo and Darlene, and they kept on with picking asparagus. Every day you went, because they would grow so fast within a day, and they had to be a certain size. And that we would do that before we could go to school. To do it quick, quick, quick.
But, yes. But those dear people sold it to another family, and they picked asparagus, but we became the asparagus pickers for that home. One day, this dear lady wanted to give us some dinner, and she asked us, the three of us, Ed and Rose and I, said, do you like
Soybeans.
garbanzos?
Soybeans.
Soybean? And we said, oh yes, we love soybeans. So the next day, she fed us sardines with sandwiches.
And we were so ashamed to say anything about it. We ate those sardines or the sandwiches for days, and finally Ed got courage up to say, we don't like sardines.
We thought you said soybeans.
And she said, I was buying sardines just for you. That was funny.
That was a funny joke about that one.
And in our work, the first thing we did in the spring was to take the sprouts off of potatoes. You have to take off the sprouts, and then after we'd done all that, then we had to cut them into pieces to be
Then they
planted
plant
by
them in
March.
the planter, yeah.
And so we would spend hours in the root cellar doing that.
That was in March and February, March.
Yeah.
We did that a lot.
Then in May, April, we were starting to plant watermelons.
Oh, finally when we got older, they were interested in Rose and I going to Camp Hope. And we had a fun learning to pick up the plates, wipe the tables off at first, and then we finally ended up helping them cook. And I still remember one morning, we were busy getting dinner ready with Mrs. Reed. And the noon whistle blew, and Rose or I said, that's the noon whistle. And 12 o'clock whistle. And for some reason, Mrs. Reed didn't realize it. She took it. She was late, 45 minutes late, and a dear lady got a headache, all because we said it was the whistle. I felt so bad about it because she was so hyped up about it. We couldn't understand why she was until she told us later. But we had the pleasure of learning to cook for camping several years that way.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else in the gardens?
Anything else in their garden?
Did you pick cantaloupe?
Is watermelon, cantaloupe.
Oh, yes.
And after we had planted the watermelon, then you had to go out and hoe. You had to rip open the box at the top of the cap. They'd put a cap over it. You rip it open, and the chance of frost was gone, let the air come out, and then they would grow. And then you had to hoe. And after it hoed,
It's our joy to pick.
pick.
We learned how to find a ripe watermelon, thump it, a certain sound, the curlicues at the end, the mother words. So it was our job in the morning. We'd go ahead of they called the pickers, the people who were carrying the watermelon. And Rose and I and a couple other men or something would go down 4 rows, each of us a row, and then set them up, and the crew would come after us and pick them up and load them up to take them up to where they were packing them. So that was the joy we had too.
So who were the other pickers? Other young kids or migrant
the
workers?
bosses of the fields.
Yeah, where were they from?
They were the owners of the fields. They would walk with us down, and soon we were doing it by ourselves.
So you didn't have migrant workers then. It was all the youth like you, or you did all the agriculture of the whole valley, just you two.
Well, all the pickers were all the other kids, and some of the
From
ladies.
other farms.
No,
We had a share of caring too, but once we learned how to pick, that's what we did.
Was it just your family?
No, it was. We would go to the commercial fields.
Yeah. Who else was in the commercial fields?
Other people.
Other kids
From other
people.
farms.
Some of our siblings.
Okay.
and kids who didn't come from farms. They lived on the community. They were pickers
Okay.
too. Yeah, and the height of the watermelon season was to pack train car loads watermelons to send to the prairies.
Poor people. on the
Half
prairies.
full. These big railroad cars full of watermelon. They take
And
it
you
out
always
sell
put
them.
straw around them, and then they would take them out there.
So you go and pack the cars?
We didn't pack, we did the picking. And after we picked, then we just helped carry so you knew how to catch a huge watermelon, like you do baseball. Then you throw it
And you
to the
catch
next
them this
person.
way.
Catch it this way. We did that so much of the time.
Is
We-
that why you all have arthritis now? Because you kept
Could
bending
be.
over and picking?
Well, another thing about our scoliosis, I don't know if we have, I think we have scoliosis.
Picking in buckets.
We used to pick in bigger buckets so we could get further in our row. We'd carry these buckets to the lady and we'd dump them in. She was holding the sack. She'd shake down the sack and then get another sack and we would throw
And
it
this
in.
is where we helped our younger siblings because
They couldn't
Zella
work as
had
fast.
a hard time picking. She couldn't bend, squat with her hips down, and pick. Her
Her
little
back.
back would hump. And it was very difficult for her.
It made me think of Anne. When Anne decided she didn't want to be picked up, she would hump her little tummy way up, back.
Talk about gardening.
It made me think of Auntie Zella's back.
Yeah.
And another part of the gardening was picking corn.
Mm-hmm.
Drag a gunny sack along with you and pick the corn and
Put her bags.
put it in bags as you come and they take it there and then they would go and sell it the next day.
And you ate it?
No, they sold it.
One thing about the watermelon, if we were picking and we have to thump it, it would crack. Guess what we did? We set those watermelons aside. We take them home, and our family had the best tasting watermelon because those are the best.
But sometimes you didn't do that. Sometimes they cracked so much you just took the centerpiece, you didn't worry about the rest outside, and you just gobbled that down.
The center of the watermelon is the best.
Oh, that was so sweet.
And you hated to think that you turn that half a watermelon that we couldn't take with us and over into it, or it would go and be manure for the next crop. But those are memories of working in the field.
What about fruit trees?
We didn't get big fruit.
We didn't do much in the fruit
The
area
fruit trees crop had been frozen before we got big enough to do that.
because there had been a lot of fruit trees in Grandview Flats, lots of orchards. But by the time we were older, most of them had been frozen.
They had a winter without any snow, and the frost came and damaged all the
destroyed
roots
them.
and damaged. They just pulled out orchards and pulled out orchards. It was so sad. Before that, they had these nice apples. The Stickle farm was full of those orchards.
And others too up there.
Mhm.
You had to pull them all out. The hard freeze, as they called it. Yeah. So,
What about Grandma's home garden?
oh,
With
our
her
garden.
rhubarb and everything.
Grandma had a beautiful garden. She loved flowers. It was not the kind that took a lot of wear. She could have done more, but she did what she could. California poppies, Shirley poppies, Bachelor buttons. What else?
Irises.
Hmm?
Iris patch.
Oh yes, and hollyhocks and lilacs. Those type of flowers she always. And I don't know if that's what instilled the joy of flowers with me, but I always appreciated so much. And still today, I work with the flowers in the schools where I work.
And I'm disappointed with my garden because my garden is too shaded and I can't grow lots and lots and lots of flowers. I might get one or two blossoms from a plant.
But you have a beautiful, when you put them on the Facebook, they're gorgeous. You have beautiful flowers.
Yeah, but they're not, I can't pick them. There might be 3 irises, 3 roses. I can't pick them and make big bouquets like I'd like to.
Because they're too much shade.
So how did you guys learn all the names of flowers and trees and birds?
Today, my dear, because of my love of flowers, we used to go, remember I talked about Grandma Bechtold, and we used to go down, and I just loved to walk up and down her flower rows, and I would work with that. And still today, I've,
But just
Make it a
looking at
habit.
flower rows doesn't tell
It's
you
a
the
hobby
name.
with me. It's a hobby with me. I learned all the wild
Hobby
flowers.
with us. We're both that way.
But how did you learn the names?
You just get so used to it.
But you know,
Every flower reminds me.
someone must have told you. Who told you the names?
Well, first of all, from Mom, what flowers she grew. And then when you talk to these people, if you show an interest in flowers, they'll come out and tell you just joyfully and glad to share with you the beauty. That apparently they love flowers too. And so we learned a lot. And today, I still have a hobby and a habit. I keep record. And this year, I coined about 225 flowers, wildflowers, that I have recognized and seen. The biggest amount I've done was 370 in one summer. That's when I came out to British Columbia. I got some from Montana and other places. But as a rule, about 225 I get around just to school, and people look, "You got those many flowers from there?" I said, "Yes, they're there. If you're looking for them, you'll find them." And so I do that.
So, what's your favorite flowers?
I have no favorites. Do you have a favorite?
That's funny.
They're all
Did you hear
beautiful.
this?
I don't.
Yeah.
You
Trump
know,
has threatened to convert to Adventism if Carson keeps beating him in the polls.
I want to share something with that. The
Yeah,
favorites.
that's what I read.
Where you grow, you have different flowers that grow pretty.
And
beautiful.
comment below that
And right
was
now, where I am, Vinca takes the place of petunias up here.
The tide that will come in from Trump.
Canada, where we grew up, and
will
middle of
overcome the
petunias
difficulties
are
that
a
have been
gorgeous
made
flower,
by
except on the
Carson's,
coast here in the Damascus. They just bloom and bloom and beautiful.
You know, Alberta there, and Alberta has such beautiful.
He didn't say he'd become a tithe paying.
And here I am, down there. I tried petunias one year, and the rain, they fall flat. So we got used to using Vinca, which is a substitute for petunias down in the south. And so I use Vinca a lot. This year,
He didn't say where
geraniums,
Carson is supposed to be in if
impatience,
he's
begonias.
becoming Adventist city.
He actually
And-
said that?
What
Oh,
was
it's
Grandma's
sapphire.
favorite flowers?
I don't know. I don't know. She just loved flowers altogether.
Well, it sounded, what I was reading, as
She
if he
always
said that.
took care, because she didn't have much of a tame flower per se, except for those perennials, those flowers that grew.
He said, I
She
already
didn't
don't
have,
drink.
we didn't have the opportunity.
We
He
have
says, "I
Baxter
already
buttons all
don't
the time, and poppies, California poppies. So we always had those
Irises.
irises. And I remember her
Shirley
planting
poppies.
other kind of flowers, but they bloomed so well and be finished. Sweet peas you'd have.
Mm-hmm.
For my favorite time of season in my yard is springtime, when I see the primulas and the forget-me-nots. Primulas and
Carson will announce
forget-me-nots.
Like
They
bachelors
make
is running
such a
the-
beautiful showing in my side garden. I call that my favorite time of garden. In there. Then at first there's these little miniature daffodils. They come out first.
That's hilarious.
Crocuses. There's a few snowdrops coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's these, what I call them twinkle starlets. I don't know what kind of flower they are. But they come out and they're beautiful little blue, they almost like a star.
Mm-hmm.
They grow, and then after that is the primulas.
Hmm?
After that come the primulas.
Yeah.
And primulas grow so long. They're beautiful. And when they have the wild forget-me-nots in between, they're just so beautiful.
Right
Okay.
now, where I am right now, I really enjoy the different flowers we have. Vinca growing all over. And what happened one year? I always concluded, Raleigh was teaching school, so we had a growth lights inside. So one year we brought in all the geraniums that had grown outside. Somebody had planted them. And we brought cuttings in and plants in. And we planted 180 plants. And they were just gorgeous. And that year I had geraniums all over on all the beds. It was just, and I was there so I could maintain it. Just nothing but beautiful colors and shades of geraniums all over the school grounds.
Wow.
But the school kids helped us a lot.